Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cooleen Media. It's myself, Aaron Prendergast, and I'm joined today by Jason Keelan from the Loaf of Bread podcast. A little bit of a different setup this weekend. I believe Seamus is away in Berlin. I think Matthew. I don't know where Matthew is actually, but he's obviously busy with something. And then you've got Liam as well, who's in I think in Amsterdam or Netherlands or something like that. So the lads are definitely well travelled. We've drafted in the next best man in Jason Keelan from the Loaf of Bread podcast. Making an appearance off the bench and everything else. Jason, how's life? How's tricks? And yeah, good to you're actually the first official guest we've had on the show. So there you go. You know, you'll be telling your friends and family about this for years to come, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. No, like I've obviously kept up with everything that Cooleen's done. As I was saying to you offline, I think it's a cracking name. It's very memorable, very catchy, and you have a great bunch of lads, to be fair. You have a bit of everything, and you have the Midlands included, which is always nice as well, of course. So, but yeah, it's going grand. Otherwise, very honoured to be the first guest on Cooleen as well. Very excited. Yeah, it's just a pity one of the big games is called off. But look, it is the way it is. But still plenty to talk about, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like there is still plenty to go through, and even seeing there Peter in the comments very much leading the charge there. Peter says here, hey lads, a shout out to Kieran Martin, who has retired the county boots, a great servant for the Lake Men for a good spell. His club Maryland won Celebrity Banished Door, led by Marty Whelan. Well, I suppose like as a Westmeath man on the show, maybe that's good timing. But yeah, what were your thoughts in regards to that even?
Yeah, funnily enough, I was driving through town here in Mullingar, and I saw Kieran about 2 minutes after that statement came out. Funnily enough, look, he's a lad I've always had great time for. I was emceeing a dinner dance for my cousin's club last year, St. Joseph's in Streamstown, and Kieran came along as the kind of guest as well. Just very easygoing lad. Really, really sound. I can't think of anyone who wouldn't have liked him, having him around the dressing room. Funnily, he actually said last year that he was enjoying football with the new rules. He said it was the kind of first time in a long time that he felt he was enjoying training, he was enjoying matches and stuff. And then the retirement, I suppose, to some people it mightn't have been too surprising. To others, it might have come as a little bit of a shock, particularly after knowing that he said that as well. But he's given us some great memories, that day in Crow Park, Meath and all that. Like that was just something magical. Like he's called the Bear around here. He's called the Bear everywhere, and there's a reason for it. And it's probably his last real act with Westmeath was to kick that level and score against Roscommon as well. And it was quite a way to bow, really. The outside of the left foot in injury time with the hooter and all that, and he knocks it over and gets us a draw. And yeah, he's been a phenomenal servant. And yeah, the people of Maryland, I think, appreciate all he's brought to the club. Playing for Westmeath as well, they got a bit of momentum, and Celebrity Banished Door was obviously a great thing for them as well. But yeah, a sound guy, and he'll be missed around Westmeath, not by the opposition teams obviously, but he'll be missed around Westmeath. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, like definitely a stalwart of Westmeath football and everything else. And there certainly has been a few big stars that have stepped away Westmeath football over the last couple of seasons. So it is going to be definitely interesting to keep an eye on how things progress there in the next few years. But Gavin does say here, up to town, Strokestown, Connacht intermediate champions. Yeah, I was thinking of you, Gavin, when I seen Strokestown do the business. So yeah, be interesting to see how they get on in the All Ireland series. But look, there isn't a huge amount of action really. There's a few talking points here and there, but there was a lot of one-sided games this weekend. There's no question in regards to that. And I suppose we'll go on order of football. We'll look at hurling then, and then we'll finish up with Camogie. And we'll start off with the Ulster Football Championship action. It was Kilcoo 4-12, Earn Gales Ballyhale 10 points. Very dominant again from Kilcoo. Like they just seem to make light work of these games year on year. Like maybe every now and again there might be a bit of a shock, there might be a bit of a surprise, or there might be pushed to the pin of their collar. But yeah, very, very comfortable, comprehensive, and there's no question they have to be viewed as serious contenders, not just for Ulster obviously, but for the All Ireland, I think.
Yeah, definitely. a guy that I work with as well would have experience playing against Kilcoo before and recently enough, and he would say the setup up there, he said, is akin to any good county setup. Like he said, it's essentially Kilcoo have their own centre of excellence, their own kit fan, their own everything that a county team has. So it's no wonder that lads are eager to play for them, and it's why they tend to turn up. A lot of the time, if you look after lads, they'll generally play well. I was only reading bits of it after the games. Is it 7 finals in 13 seasons for Kilcoo or something along that line? I think Billy just got a little bit caught out. Like, it was never really. It was, it would have been the ultimate shock, I think, of the weekend and one of the shocks of the season if they managed to do it. And Kilcoo, to be fair to them, like they mightn't be full of household names to everybody in the GA world. They have, Brannigan, Devlin, Doherty, etc. But like, there's a lot of lads in there that if you sat down and asked someone, name the 15, they might know a whole lot of them outside that. But yet they always turn up as a unit, and it doesn't matter if there's one missing, someone steps in. They still tend to perform, and it's a bit of a shock when they do lose. And at the moment, they don't look like anyone is going to come close to them, but who knows? But it was a very comprehensive win, we'll say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I think there was only 3 points in it at half time, so it was close enough in the early stages. And I thought Aaron Gales were doing well to stick with Kilcoo. But yeah, like, one of the most impressive things like I've seen with Kilcoo like over the last couple of years is just their ability to score goals. Like, I mean, they cut Scottstown apart last year in that final, and then in this game as well. And they're getting scores from everywhere as well. Like, even just looking at it here, like Sheelan Johnston with 1-1, Eugene Brannigan with 1-1, Paul Devlin with 1-1 as well. So like, there's no, sometimes with certain club teams you might pinpoint one or two kind of key players. I feel like with Kilcoo there's no distinctive key player because they just have so many of them.
Yeah, that would be fair to say. And like, you list off the lads who get 1-1, and then like you add in like Caleb Doherty and a few others like who can score goals. It's not like they're relying on one player or a couple of lads to chip in. Like they had, was it 10 or 11 scorers in the county final, I think it was, or the last game they played, and they went from the cornerbacks, halfbacks, midfield. Like, everybody is able to shoot and everyone's able to score. Whereas like, even some games I've commentated on lately, like, it's dreadful the amount of teams who will be in a shooting position and will turn around and look for the one man that they've been told to give the ball to shoot. It doesn't seem to happen with Kilcoo. And, realistically, them, or I would say Bridget's, are probably, the two likely to lift silverware at the end of the year. Ballyhale, it was their first win last week, wasn't it, against King's Court? Was that who it was? Their first ever provincial win or something. So like, they were out of their depth a little bit. As good as they did to put up a fight, it was probably a bit unrealistic to ask them to do that twice in a row against a team who are literally on fire. So Kilcoo have just scores all over the shop, really.
Yeah, absolutely they do. And Gavin does make the point here as well. Kilcoo against Bridget's or Mike Cullen will be some semi-final if they win Ulster, which looks likely. And Peter was saying here, a statement win from Kilcoo, the Ballygunner of football. And Aidan says whoever comes out of Bridges and Kilcoo will win it all. So I suppose a lot of people kind of looking at Kilcoo, Bridges, and everything else. Would you be looking at Kilcoo as what like, would they be your favourites, or how would you kind of see the overall All-Ireland picture?
Yeah, I think they probably are. For me, there was, there's a lot made about the fact that so many of the reigning champions disappeared very quickly. And you're kind of looking then around the scenes and around the games and wondering, well, who's going to step up? And Kilcoo they're not short of experience. They've beaten, as you said, mauled Scottstown before. So like, the best that really will come against them in Ulster, they've already demolished. So there's nothing to say that they wouldn't go down and hammer the Munster champions. And I think Leinster clubs, like, from what I've seen so far, like, the standard isn't fantastic in Leinster in football or in hurling really either. So I wouldn't, if they can get through Ulster, obviously with Scottstown and Newbridge being abandoned, obviously that makes it a little bit more awkward. Dingle are I know we'll probably get on to them after. They're such an interesting outfit, and I know Matthew then will obviously look at Finbarrs as well. I don't think the winner's coming from Leinster. If if we want an honest opinion, like the standard so far, as I said, hasn't been great, but Kilcoo would certainly be. And I wouldn't normally root for a lot of the teams from Ulster because of previous history with hating the way they played football so much. But I do like the way Kilcoo go about it, and they are attacking. As you said, they will score goals. Like so, yeah. To me, they'd be my favourites at the moment, ever so slightly. But it'll obviously depend on whether if they get out of Ulster, I don't think they'll be stopped. Put it that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Looking, it should be an interesting final when that one does come around. Gavin does say Ballyhale or a tie. It is interesting. There's a lot of question marks over both of them. Like I've been impressed with a tie. I think Ballyhale have done well as well, and they have a lot of very good players. But again, there's a lot of new players in that team who wouldn't have played at this kind of stage of the competition. But definitely, I think Ballyhale, if Ballyhale do come through Leinster, I think they definitely will be in the mix as well. But look, the other game was abandoned at half time. It was 1-4 to 3 points at half time in favour of Scottstown. And there was a comment here from Peter earlier who says main talking point is Floodgate, as he's calling it here in Omagh. Lots of mixed views. McQuillan is very experienced in the reffing game. Player safety always has to be the forefront. To be fair, looking at the state of the pitch, like it was an absolute mess, really. I think they had a game on before as well.
That went extra time as well.
and just with the conditions as well. Like you see in the TG car cameras, like struggling really to try and kind of show the game. They had to show the angle behind the goal for the vast majority of the first half. But yeah, like where do you kind of stand on that? Like I think to be fair, it was a brutal game. I don't think it was going to get any better in the second half. So look, maybe now with better conditions we get a better game. But where would you stand on this?
I suppose if compared, say maybe down here at home where we have Cusack Park, the county board called off a lot of games in the past couple of weeks in Cusack Park, specifically just to make sure that the Downs and Tullamore could go ahead in Leinster, because there is some precedence apparently that the senior fixtures have to be in the county ground, because the Downs, my club down here, the Downs obviously lost Tullamore. Their facilities would actually be ideal to play a game in, but they weren't allowed, so had to be in the home, the venue of the county as such. Joe McQuillan, I think, to be fair to him, someone said online he picked the muckiest spot to throw the ball down, which, fair enough, I can understand. There's a lot of people who don't like Joe McQuillan, but say like last year's hurling final here in Westmeath, Barry Kelly got an awful lot of abuse for blowing the game up after 15 minutes, and the conditions were probably equally as bad in Omagh this evening. So I think he's done the right thing. Like all it will take is one lad just to can't stop his run, crash into another lad, and there's broken legs, and next thing you have a case. My sister-in-law is dealing with the case in Crow Park in the insurance department. So like, it's the right decision. There's nothing he can do. Like, and as you said, the game wasn't getting any better. The only highlight of the game really was seeing the deadly TG car angle from behind the goals. Like that was about it. Just let them play properly and give them a chance, really.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, like it was like even and like with the Rory Beggan 2-pointer right at the end of the half, probably made it a little bit more. Made it look a little bit better than maybe what it was. Yeah. It was 1-2 to 3 of at that point. Gavin says here, reminds me of when Blackburn Ipswich was cancelled, when Blackburn were a goal up. I could see Scottstown being pissed like Blackburn was when that game was cancelled. Yeah, I don't know when that game was, to be honest with you, but yeah, like it's an interesting one. Like 4 points up at half time. Like I think with the conditions as well, they probably would have won the game. I think, to be honest with you. I think they probably would have seen the game out. Now, a few people were saying in the comments here there was a strong wind and everything else, so maybe that's something to kind of factor in. But yeah, I don't know. Could Scottstown be maybe slightly aggrieved, do you think? Or
yeah, look, I don't know if there's a whole lot anyone can do about it. Like, it is the way it is. It's probably a chat for another day about the setup of the fixtures and the calendar. As one man said to me, he said there's only 12 months in the year, like, and you want to fit everything into it. You also can't predict the weather in Ireland, so it's probably a little bit awkward that way. Newbridge, to be fair, like it's hard to judge them on that half of football because, like, say the McGrogan trio, like they would have in the backs, would generally be pretty strong from what I've seen of them. And yet you spend most of the time wondering when the slip and slide was going to end. So it's kind of hard to judge either of them on it. Rory Began was, probably the highlight of the half, really, was the 2-pointer. Apart from that, the camera angle was deadly because you could really get a view of the tactical movement off the ball that we wouldn't usually see. But I don't think people would generally watch the game in that angle for too long, to be honest. But look, Scotstown can feel aggrieved, no more than like Loughlin Gales in the county final here last year were winning against Castletown when it was abandoned and then went out the next day and got hockeyed. So there's not a whole lot you can do. Like, I don't think Scotstown, to be fair, both teams are playing in the same conditions. It's not like, they got a huge advantage taken off them. They'll come out the next day and I'm sure they'll get the job done.
Yeah, and like I don't know what's going to happen as well, like with the scheduling as well, because obviously like this game is going to be fixed now for next week. I think the Ulster final might have been the week after. So they're obviously in a race to kind of finish these games up before Christmas. So like you would feel sorry for the players, like like it's obviously nothing got to do with them, the weather and everything else. Like they've come prepared, they've given it all for 35 minutes, and it's essentially like having to play a replay. I know they didn't play the second half, but it's a little bit unfortunate on them in some ways, and it probably does lend a bit of an advantage to Kilcoo as well now.
It would, yeah. It's that age-old thing of, you're better off playing consecutive games and being energized, or you're better having a couple of weeks of a break. And most teams that I've seen so far seem to have benefited from having the break, particularly if you're an inter-county footballer and a club team as well, like in your or like, say, I know we were chatting before, and like Turbo Clare, the only Westmeath team left, they've also won the under-20, and half of that team have played every minute of intermediate and under-20 and Leinster games so far. So you'd probably want a bit of a break if you're Kilcoo, and you'd be more than happy to have seen Joe McQuillan chucking that ball on the ground and not bouncing. So it is unfortunate. Like, the other option is a midweek late throw-in under the lights somewhere, which lends itself to more problems and congestion with people, like lads are working jobs as well. Like, it's not that handy just to get time off during the week for a lot of these lads, I'm sure. But it's not ideal. And if it is next Saturday, and if the Ulster final is after that, then it's advantage Kilcoo, really, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, Aidan says here, Armagh wasn't bad. Conditions during the Kilcoo match wouldn't have been a bad show. And Peter says double headers in winter equals disaster. Well, it was kind of funny. Matthew and Seamus were having the good double header discussion during in the last show, and Seamus was very much in favour of the double headers. I think
which I didn't text him about, but I should have, because I'm all for double headers, but put them on different pitches, one after the other, and give us time to drive from A to B. Like, don't put them on the same pitch, particularly if it's rained any time before that. But it's particularly extra time killed that as well, of course. So
and Gavin kind of agrees with you here as well. He says, remember, Arva Ballinderry was the intermediate, was cancelled for the same reason, with double header with this weather. I don't know why Ulster GA do double headers with this weather. Yeah, absolutely. And look, hopefully, obviously the conditions are, I don't know how they're going to be next week, but obviously with this time of the year, you don't know. So hopefully, like, they can kind of get everything sorted by next weekend. We'll move on to the Munster football semi-finals. Two kind of very one-sided games, I think you would say. One of them here was bizarre, really. It was Dingle 2-15, Mungra St. Paul's 2 points. I think St. Paul's didn't score their first point until like the 48th minute. No points from both of them were from frees. Jesus, like, I remember looking at the score on Score BO, and you're thinking, is there a mistake here? Or, is there, I had to go and check on Twitter then after, because I was thinking, surely this can't be right. But Jesus, look, first of all, incredible for Dingle. Obviously for Mungra St. Paul's, look, they won their first Limerick title in their history, so I'm sure maybe there was a bit of celebrations and everything else. It was only a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? So but Jesus, like a bit of a mad one, this.
I was getting text message updates from a friend of mine down there who was at it, and they they were very excited in the first 10 minutes or so. I think the writing was kind of on the wall. Then at that point, I think the game, Connor and Niall, I think already had about 5 or 6 points on the board. Writing was kind of on the wall already. The mess just started getting a bit less frequent when they realised that they paid money in to see this. Like, nothing against Munger St. Paul, just said they were just out of their depth against, a team who were flying nearly 80 years or whatever it was since Dingle won a Kerry title, and now they're, they seem like they're absolutely flying. They're going to be very hard to stop, and Finbarrs are going to have quite a sort of job in their hands to slow down the momentum of them as well. But like, I was slightly disappointed by Mungert as well, because when Westmeath lost to Limerick in the Tailteann Cup last year, there's a few lads on that Munger team who were the lads who basically hurled Limerick over Westmeath, basically, and Emmett Richter was one of them, and I didn't hear his name mentioned once today as well. He was the lad who basically knocked us out of the Tailteann Cup last year with his points, and we struggled. He was probably the lad that Westmeath's defence struggled most against, and yet Munger kicked 2 points from frees in the whole game. One of them was in stoppage time as well, as you said, which is terrible for football in so many ways. Like, and I know you could argue like Munger beat Newcastle, or Newcastle West wasn't in the final, so like maybe the standard in Limerick is just not up to the pace of the standard in Kerry, and it's a bit of a mismatch. But like, Dingle can only beat what's in front of them, and they certainly did that. Like, and as I said, the game was over after 7 minutes, I think, and Dingle just were kind of scoring freely. I think Thomas Sullivan kicked a few as well. So like, yeah, it's bad for football. It's bad for the standard of football, but Cork Kerry final will be good crack. I actually see someone has written that. Gavin has written that there. Yeah, it's Cork Kerry final to be the kind of ideal final. But yeah, Munger sort of go out. I wouldn't say with their heads held high, but Dingle flying.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they certainly are. In fairness, Gavin says here, sorry, but are Dingle Kerry champions, or are they something else? I still don't understand how they do it. Yeah, I think they won the county championship. I think.
Yeah.
I think Crokes won the club championship. So yeah, it is a little bit confusing, to be fair. It seems like
they'll argue it's the best system in Ireland. They have argued so many times. Yeah.
Look, to be fair, it is good. Like, it does give a lot of players the opportunity, doesn't it, to kind of play across the board and everything else. Like, so it is kind of a good one there. But yeah, like Dingle, where do they rank in the All Ireland picture? Like, where would you kind of have them?
Not far off it. Like, and you can't underestimate Mark O'Connor's influence as well. Like, and that it's a standard thing of a lad who's gone out to the AFL and come back, and just sort of, as brilliant as GA players are and fitness wise, there's just something peculiar about these lads who come back, and they just seem to have that extra 1.5 feet of a leap, and their stride is bigger, and he's been absolutely class, and part of the reason they're going so well. Finbarrs are so much fun to watch as well. I saw one of their games recently, kind of in full. It's the best final, I think, really, of probably the four is probably going to be this one.
Yeah.
And I know Connacht is a good final as well, and there's potential for a decent one in Leinster as well, and obviously, Kilcoo, and I would expect Scottstown to be there as well. But I think the Munster final is probably going to be the most interesting, and maybe that's the first time in a while that it actually might be the case where there's two teams who could contest an All-Ireland, possibly playing each other in a final. So two big scoring teams as well. Generally, Dingle put up a few big scores in Kerry. So for me, they rank. It's easier to rank these when they get out of their province, put it that way. And I know Matthew will be going in for Finbarrs, I'm sure. So I think Dingle could beat Finbarrs if they got to the last four. I'd love to see Dingle and Kilcoo in a final. I think that'd be like the best All-Ireland final in a long time. But they're up there in my top two, maybe, them and Kilcoo.
Yeah, no, look, they're definitely in the conversation as well. Like, when you have the Gainies doing the business as they are, like when you said, like Conor Gainey with 2-2, Paul Gainey with 3 points, Dylan Gainey with 2, you had Noel Gainey with 4 points as well, Tom O'Sullivan with 2. And yeah, they do have Mark O'Connor back. I think there was some questions. Would he stick around for the Munster Club Football Championship? I think, look, if he's going to play in the semi-finals, I think you'll most likely see him in the final, to be fair. But yeah, no, you mentioned Finbarrs there. They comfortably beat Éire Óg 320 to 14 points as well. I suppose not as bad from an Éire Óg Ennis point of view in terms of scoring wise as what we've seen with Mungra St. Paul's. But yeah, very, very dominant performance from Finbarrs. And again, you know what Dingle can do, the Bars showed that they can absolutely do as well.
Yeah, and they're some club, like they're really coming to the fore in everything, like between football, hurling, camogie obviously as well today, or this weekend, and they've talent kind of all over the pitch in a lot of Cork lads as well. Like, and I know, again, using Westmeath as a reference, we went down to see Westmeath play Cork. Like, Ian Maguire was just, it's the first time I'd seen him properly. And geez, he's such a class footballer. I couldn't get over how good he was. And then you've like, what else we got? Hayes, Barrett, Sherlock, Stephen Sherlock as well. Like they've so many lads, and they're a bit like Kilcoo. They mightn't necessarily be the names that roll off the tongue, like, and you can name their 15 fairly comfortably, but yet they are seem to be a very tight-knit unit. And was it Brian Hayes got the hat-trick again? That's his second hat-trick. Yeah, and another Clare team was on the wrong end of it as well. And then the hurlers up against Ballygunner, the girls obviously winning the camogie. Like, they're flying. I kind of felt sorry a little bit for Éire Óg. It was great for them to be doing well, but just a little bit out of their depth. I know Icahn didn't have a great game by the sounds of it. Their defence struggled a little bit. I know they've a good defender. I've heard people mention him a few times. Gavin Dory, I think is how you pronounce his surname. But they didn't seem to have a great game at all in general. So yeah, you'd have to fancy. I think the final of the four is going to be Finbarrs against Dingle. As we say, Dingle, they'd shoot us if we said Dingle down there. Danganikush, of course, as they prefer to be known as. But yeah, that'll definitely be the best final. Finbarrs, class act, really. Great management, obviously, in there too. So yeah, they're flying as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and even as you were mentioning, Matthews, Gaelic Statsman, kind of post or channel and everything else, and yeah, like he be very much be gunning for Finbarrs to kind of come through. And even looking at some of the stats that he kind of put up on his own like on his own Instagram, like even he was saying here, like, yeah, Brian Hayes got a hat-trick, sealed what was an awesome display. John Wigginton Barrett, love that name, by the way, and Stephen Sherlock also big on the score sheet as they excelled once they get on the Ennis kick out. And yeah, he was saying as well that Brian Hayes was his man of the match, and he'd be on John Cleary's radar if he wasn't such a brilliant hurler. And yeah, look, I remember he played against the Dubs. I think it might have been in 21 or 22 or something like that for the footballers. Before obviously he moved over to the hurlers as well. So yeah, I know there was a comment there about Jimmy Barry Murphy, the kind of man behind the bars. But geez, Brian Hayes isn't a bad dual player as well. By the looks of it, he might be the heir to the throne a little bit there.
Yeah, it could be. Jimmy Barry usually does well wherever he goes, whether it be club or even some of the university teams that would have seen him at as well. But yeah, Brian Hayes is some talent, and it's very hard. I think it's harder to be a dual player now than it ever was, particularly at a county level. So it would be brilliant though to see him coming out in both, and like, it would be a fantastic story. But he also run the risk then, of course, of falling back in one and trying to up your game in the other one and trying to stay with training and all that. But he's certainly a top talent, and yeah, any county team would take him in any code, to be honest.
Yeah, Aidan's given us an power rankings here as well. Kilcoo for Bridget second, Dingle third, Bowden fourth, Mike Cullen fifth. Yeah, that is an interesting one. All right, yeah. I don't know. Mike Cullen fifth, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I'd probably nearly have Bridget's first, maybe. I don't know. That's just my opinion, given off what how good they looked a couple of years ago. Dingle are looking very strong as well. There's no doubt about it. Like, to be honest, like I think there's not much between a lot of the teams. I'd nearly probably put Scots down in that ranking maybe as well. Maybe I'd have them maybe in the top 5. But Jesus, yeah, like there is, like even looking at there, like it is so decisive, like, you know, the voice of or whatever. Like there's very little between a lot of these teams, I think.
Yeah, I Ballyboden, and it's nothing against Ballyboden at all. Obviously, I haven't lived in Dublin for more than a decade, but I just think the standard they're playing against is slightly inferior to the standard that all the other provinces are playing against. And
yeah,
while Ballyboden might come through Leinster and like I'm trying to who else, like Port are still in it, obviously. My brother-in-law's just taken over as chairman of the club there as well. I'd better give him a mention or be shot. I don't think the standard for a strong Dublin club matches the standard of the Dublin Championship. So Ballyboden are probably going to be taking on teams where, yeah, they mightn't win by cricket scores, but I don't think they'll get the same intensity of games. And then you've got Kilcoo, Bridget's, Dingle. Yeah, like is it the closest? Is it the closest like 5 or 6 maybe teams in contention for an All Ireland in a few years where there's no standout that you'd think, you know, in the past, like even in the hurling, like you probably would have had a look at like O'Loughlin's and Ballyhales and stuff, and they were flying, and you would have thought, yeah, fair enough, these lads are probably going to win the All Ireland. And the football this year, it's probably more interesting maybe than other years. But I like Aidan's top 5, but I'd have a slightly different pecking order maybe.
Yeah. Like I think maybe off of what we've seen so far, I think probably to have Kilcoo first probably is a fair reflection, because look, they have looked unbeatable, to be honest, and they've been beating teams at the sword like quite comfortably. But yeah, no, look, it's definitely something we'll revisit, and even maybe with the lads later in the week we'll kind of go into it in more detail. But yeah, looking at the weekend's hurling, and I suppose Shamrocks Ballyhale, look, they were pushed to the pin of their collar against Clough-Ballacolla. A lot of people, including myself, like a lot of people expected this to be very kind of one-sided and everything else, but geez, it definitely went down to the wire. Like Clough-Ballacolla actually levelled it with a couple of minutes to go. We're kind of thinking, you know, is the shock on the cards? And Clough-Ballacolla for a majority of the second half, I haven't seen the game or seen the highlights, but from what I've read and seeing other opinions, they were the better team in the second half. But look, in the end, you know, sometimes you have to win ugly. Sometimes you just need to get over the line. And to be fair, that's what Ballyhale have done here.
Yeah, it's probably a fair assessment of it, winning ugly and getting over the line. I was in Laois for Clough-Ballacolla and Castletown here from Westmeath, and it broke my heart. Like Castletown broke my heart because they were just people went into it saying, you know, Castletown had kind of written off Clough-Ballacolla already, and they were going to stroll past them. I don't think Castletown thought that, but some other people certainly did. Like Westmeath teams' records against Laois in general are brutal. So when Clough-Ballacolla won it, it didn't surprise me too much. Willie Dunphy, very, very good player for Clough-Ballacolla, real kind of target man. Aidan Corboy in the middle was brilliant against Castletown. He was kind of engine of the team, but like Ballyhale are able to get over the line. I was reading that, I think it's 12 Leinster titles Ballyhale have. Like they'll be out for 13. Obviously, Kilkenny teams have a record in the last few years, apart from the Fina. I think it's generally been Kilkenny teams up there. So it's winning ugly, but it's a win. And maybe unlike, say, Ballyboden in the football, Shamrocks will be the better for this because they've had a strong test. Whereas if they come out and knock 30 points past them and won by a massive score, you're not really getting a huge benefit from it. It's no more than Kilkenny like hammering, weaker teams in Leinster in general at county level. I think this will stand to Ballyhale as they go forward. And yeah, look, it was a good game. It was nice that it was close. It would have been unusual for Ballyhale to not have enough experience in the locker to get over the line, even if it was only by a couple. But Clough-Ballacolla will look back in their season certainly with a lot of pride and a lot of things to take forward for 2026. So, but TJ Reid and the lads will live on and fight another day.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and they were missing some key players. Like
Yeah,
Adrian was obviously out with everything that happened in the the end
yeah.
of the game against Kilcormac. Like, so they were missing a couple of players, but Noel Shortall came in, got a big goal, obviously in the
Mm.
first half, kind of stem the turn the tide a little bit. But yeah, no, look, yeah, you have to give tremendous credit, I think, to Clough Ballyhale, because look, they would have been heavily written off going into this game. A lot of people would have said, Ballyhale will win comfortably and everything else. Like, so. Look, although they've lost the game and they'll be disappointed and everything else, they'll take. I would imagine they'll still take a good kind of amount of pride despite the defeat. And they'll carry that moving forward, because like it was one hell of a display, and to take Ballyhale to the final couple of minutes and kind of have them on the ropes a little bit, like that's fair credit has to go to them there.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and like they got through round one against Castletown, who were a puck of the ball away from a Leinster final last year, and were probably equally as strong, if not maybe slightly stronger than they were last year. So they overcame them, and they took on Ballyhale, with nobody giving them any real chance. To be fair, like their odds were pretty out there. It was kind of almost seen as oh well, you got your win in Leinster now. Go away kind of thing. You've had enough. But for Ballyhale, like they'll be happy to say to him, like, I know I kind of just split screen going here in the house. I was sort of looking at a few things at the same time, but the two Corcoran lads for Ballyhale seem to be fairly decent from what I saw. Rory and I can't remember the last name, David or Dara or something along those lines. But the two Corcorans, I kept hearing their name mentioned, and they seem to be kind of the engine of the team, more so because I haven't seen a lot of Ballyhale bar the highlight clips this year, really. So, but those two lads seem to stand out pretty well, and I'll probably have more of a look at them maybe later on tonight or during the week. But yeah, like it's job done at the end of the day. It's knockout hurling. You don't really, as you say, you get it done ugly and you can move on to the next one. Like that's the way it is. And great for Clough Ballyhale, but at the end of the day, Ballyhale are still the name in the hat. So. Dara Corcoran, yes, thank you, Peter. That's his name. I couldn't think of his name.
Dara Corcoran's the man there. In fairness, to be fair with Ballyhale, there is a lot of there is a good few Corcorans in there. There's a few, there's a few kind of names and everything else they keep an eye on. But yeah, massive win for Ballyhale in the end to get over the line. And look, at the end of the day, if Ballyhale go on and win a Leinster title or an All Ireland. I don't think they'll be too fussed about how this game kind of went in the end. And sometimes, as you said, you need them kind of games to kind of wake you up and kind of kick yourselves on for the next game. Before looking at St. Martin's Naas, Gavin says here, shout out to Tyrone and Mayo for winning the intermediate Connacht Hurling Championship. It's usually dominated by Galway, so great win for them. Yeah, they won it at a fair fair counter as well. Like they won it fairly handily as well. So. That's an interesting one. Like, could we we were kind of discussing it a little bit during the week, but do you think maybe it is time for Tyrone or the Mayo winners to maybe kind of come into maybe have some sort of like a Connacht final every year from now on, or what? Where do you kind of stand on that?
Yeah, I'd be very kind of. I'd like to see everyone give it a go. No more than Kilkenny in the football, like particularly after say Mullinavat, came up here to Westmeath to play Tubberclare in the first game and. Like they ran them dead on until like 10 minutes from the end when they just ran out of steam. Like, but I'd love no more than in doing the work with the camogie and stuff. I'd love to see every level of everything played, even if it's only 13 on 13. Like who cares? Just play the game. So great for Tyrone, not great for Westmeath. I think we have Mayo. I'm pretty sure at some stage in the hurling next year. So I'd rather. Not be coming up against a team who are on form when we're struggling to find anything. So, but yeah, good on them. Like that's big, and like I know Keith Higgins been involved in Mayo in the previous years has probably bumped the name up a little bit and helped things along. And yeah, good on them. That's a big result, and it would be great to get more levels and more grades back in the different provinces.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I think that's the thing. Like if we can have the more teams that can rise up in hurling and other codes and everything else, the the better the sport is really going to become. But yeah, and in terms of Ballyhale, the team they will be playing in the final is St. Martin's, who beat Naas 21 points to 11 points. So very, very dominant stuff, it must be said here from St. Martin's perspective. 10 points up at half time. I think Naas had scored 2 points after 20 minutes or something like that. It was very, very dominant from St. Martin's. Again, you were kind of looking at this game and thinking, Naas have been kind of building the last couple of seasons, Kildare hurling's on the rise and all that kind of thing. And you're kind of, I know Martin's beaten Afina, but, out of the 2 games in Leinster that took place, this is the one where I thought maybe Naas could do something, but no, St. Martin said absolutely no chance.
Yeah, you kind of summed it up there pretty well by saying, Naas were on the rise. I think people expected something. Last weekend, I was doing the commentary on Barcelona and Ballinagore in the football, and a few minutes after, they were setting up the camera for St. Martin's and Tubberclare in the football, and word started to come through that St. Martin's had brought none of the hurlers to the game. And I just went, I'm not staying to watch this. It's going to be a disaster. And the final score was 2-26 to a point to Tubberclare. So St. Martin's had been literally, as a club, holding out for this game. They had rested all the hurlers from the football team. They, essentially given up their Leinster football run for the hurling. And it showed, Naas were, when I was on my split screen, as I say, watching another one as well, but Naas were starting to go for goals, I think around the 40th minute from frees, which is never a good sign. That usually means that you are out the gap completely and you're just trying to clutch at straws. I think it was their 10th point in the 50th minute or something like that, which is bad going, like, for a team who are, as you said, on the rise and supposed to be doing well. And then Harry Carroll gets a stray red card for a fairly petulant, unnecessary, dig of a hurl, and that just kind of summed up their day, really. And yeah, like, really annoying if you're a Naas fan, like, when Kildare hurling, as you said, is on the rise, like, and it's generally tends to be going well. And Naas had 23, I think I wrote down somewhere downstairs, 23 goals scored in Kildare this year, only conceded 40 points in total, like, which is outrageous difference in point scores. And yet today they just got murdered. And it wasn't an unflattering scoreline to St. Martin's. Like, if they wanted to score 30 or 40, they probably could have, but they Naas just weren't at the race at all. It was a dreadful game of hurling. And Rory O'Connor, I think, was asked after in the interview, did you expect it to be this easy? He obviously gave the diplomatic answer of, oh no, God, no, the conditions and all that. In his head, he's probably going, that was an absolute joke of a game. Like, why did we even bother? We could have sent the footballers up last week and given that a rattle as well, and we still would have won this. It's a frustrating one for hurling in Leinster. And I'm sure Naas fans are fairly disappointed, to say the least.
Absolutely, yeah. Now Peter says here, Naas the strongest in Kildare, but not at the races in Leinster. Today it says apparently Naas won the toss and chose to play against the win in the first half. Yeah.
What were they thinking? Like 10 points down because of a silly decision, like, and I suppose it doesn't help the club either when, like, Philly McMahon had left in the football and they lost the football title as well. Like, things do filter through, like, in a club like that, and it must have frustrated them a little bit, to kind of lose the crown. But yeah, that choice to play against the wind is, I don't know. Anyway, look, it's one of many bad decisions they made on the day. So
yeah, just especially as underdogs or whatever. Like, you want to kind of get a foot up on the opponent and kind of give yourself the best advantage. Or if you are going to play against the wind, you need to have a plan, a game plan kind of for that. Do you know what I mean? Just didn't feel like they had that. But as you said, like, yeah, St. Martin's are going very, very strong. Like, even looking at Rory O'Connor, as you mentioned, like 14 points he scored today. Like, so phenomenal kind of tally for him to kind of end up with. Like, they beat Afina as well. And looking at Ballyhale, who weren't exactly perfect today. Now, I know they, as we kind of said before, look, they'll be far better the next day. There's no question about it. They'll raise their game, and I think both of us would still very much have Ballyhale as the favourites. But is there a chance there for Martins going into that final? Like, they did beat Afina, and they have been knocking around the block for a while. So you wouldn't say it's inconceivable that a shock, could happen. Yeah,
and I suppose at the same time, we don't want it to become a Rory versus TJ type final where it's just a free take and shootout, which would be kind of frustrating as well. But yeah, like they have every chance. Like in a 60-minute game in crappy weather, like which could easily affect the game. In the next couple of weeks and stuff. Like you could see it happening. It's just Ballyhale, a bit like Kilkenny, like will rise to whoever they need to play against, and they'll rise to that level pretty quick. Like if Kilkenny are playing a poor team like in Leinster years ago, they'll just do enough to get over the level of the team they're playing and they'll win. Whereas if they're playing like Galway or someone in Leinster, or they're playing Cork or whatever, they'll rise to the level of that team and they'll go a bit further. Ballyhale are kind of similar, and the likes of TJ and obviously Adrian Mullen, hopefully, and all that will be back as well. Like you would expect them to come through it, but at the same time, when I see Peter said it there in the comments, like St. Martin's would love being the underdog. Like, sure, who doesn't want to be an underdog in a game like where nobody gives you a prayer and you literally can just play to your own game, and who knows what happens. Like, but just because Ballyhale won by 3 and St. Martin's walls through Naas, I wouldn't read massive amounts into it either. I still think Ballyhale are experienced enough at this level to get over the line comfortably if they needed to.
Yeah, and Ryan says here, Wexford teams don't fear Kilkenny.
Oh,
yeah, look, it is a fair point. Look, the county team seem to have a very good record against Kilkenny. Albeit it's always the last game in the Leinster hurling championship when Kilkenny are already.
I don't want to talk about that. Don't want to talk about that.
Yeah. No, look, that's certainly a controversial topic. We'll kind of edge away from that one, and look, we'll discuss the Camogie final then as well, because the Munster Camogie final, St. Finbarrs 3-11, De La Salle 2-12, first ever Munster Camogie championship for St. Finbarrs. So yeah, incredible result for them. They were 1-6 to a goal down after 15 minutes, so there's no question they were struggling there, and it was fairly late on actually that they turned it around, sort of towards the end of the game. A late Kate Wall goal actually turned the tide. She actually finished with 2-4 in total. So yeah, big result for Finbarrs. And look, between football, hurling, camogie, like they've an incredible club really. Like, I mean, like as you said, like still very much in with a shout for the Munster football. But yeah, an incredible result here.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and to be fair to them, like it's a great club, and any club really in Ireland could do it if they gave their players that kind of treatment as well. Like they're treated so well. I always remember Westmeath girls saying when they went down to play Cork in the Camogie a few years back, and they asked who owns this pitch, and they were told this is Cork's Camogie pitch, and they were like, no, who owns this pitch? Like, we don't have a Camogie pitch. Like, well, a lot of counties don't have a designated Camogie pitch. These girls like had proper facilities and everything, and it feeds down into a club then, when you're used to playing at that standard. And to be fair to them, like, it is surprising in some ways that that's their first title, but at the same time it also shows how the club is absolutely flying, like as you said, in everything. Like it's incredible for one club to be able to sustain that, like, and it'll be interesting to see how long that continues on for. I didn't get to see the game. I only got to read a few reports and stuff from it, and got to text a couple of the girls down there just to kind of find out who would have sort of followed the game. It sounds like the Cahalan trio kind of dominated proceedings for a lot of it when Finbarrs got going, and then Sorka McCartan with freeze as well. So I'm delighted for them. You would feel sorry for the likes of Beth McCartan, who is a real like household name, like to be on the wrong end of a defeat like that. But it is kind of, it seems to be all coming up rosy for Finbarrs at the moment. So they play, someone said they're playing in Ashburn next weekend now, I think, in the semi-final against Shamroga as well, who won't be easy. But I think the winner of the All-Ireland really is coming from the other one, Athen Ryan Dixborough. I don't think anyone is really, bar St. Finbarrs maybe, or Shamroga maybe will pull something out. But you have to fancy a team who've won All-Irelands, in the past. I think they've won each and losses in finals. Like, it'll be interesting. But I think the winner's coming from the other side of the draw, I'm afraid.
Yeah, like would you be kind of looking towards Dixborough as the All-Ireland favourites then?
Yeah, I think so. I do like Athenry. I've always kind of obviously Galway dominated a lot of the All Stars this year as well, which Galway Camogie has kind of been on the rise, and we would have gone down and played them in the intermediate last year, and got a bit of a welcome to Galway type game, I suppose. But I think Dixborough are just tend to be a little bit stronger historically anyway. I think they won it a few years back, maybe 3 or 4 years back. They won the All Ireland. So, I think Finbarrs' journey might maybe go one more game. They might get to a final, but I think the winner is definitely coming from the Athenry Dixborough side for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. I think Dixborough, and to be fair, have looked phenomenal so far this year. Athenry have obviously been very, very strong as well. And who knows, it'll be great for the Bars or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Maybe to make a stab at it and have a new winner or something like that. I think, club championships have made the case on previous shows and everything else. You do have a lot of the same teams a lot of the time kind of coming through a lot of the respective championships, and it is great when you see kind of new teams coming on the board. So, I think it would be nice to see the Bars kind of make a good push at it, or something of that nature, because I feel like you do get a lot of the same teams kind of a lot of the time who are winning these championships, coming through Ulster, coming through Leinster, and everything else,
Yeah, it is and I'm probably like many others as well who love seeing new teams kind of appear, and it would be remiss of me, I suppose, not to mention as well, since I do run international GAA kind of podcast. I did say 4 years ago when I went out to Europe to do the commentary, I said it is only a matter of time before a European side wins a provincial title, and Amsterdam at the weekend proved me right, winning the Leinster Junior hurling title. Barcelona came to Westmeath and won in Leinster for the second season running, won a game. They're now in a semi-final as well. So these new teams coming out in Ireland or even from Europe, it's always great. And I think that's why, I know you guys mentioned as well about the fact that the champions were quite quickly dethroned this year, which I think adds to the excitement of it. There is in the club scene in the last few years, maybe there hasn't really been Kilkenny dominating the hurling or Dublin winning 6 in a row type thing. I think that's why the club is just so good and generally so much better than the county setup as well. And yeah, it's great to see new teams coming through, and the Bars are they are the epitome of how to do things right, obviously, because there's no way you'd be challenging in 3 codes in the All-Ireland series with a bad setup. They must have something. Matthew must have some insight into what the hell's going on in there, because they are absolutely flying. They're going to be the club of the year, I'm sure. They have to be. I'm sure that's sewn up already. But yeah, great to see these clubs coming through as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Peter says here, lads, what did you make of the Camogie doc? I've only seen bits and pieces of it so far, but yeah, I've really enjoyed it so far. Very insightful stuff. But what have you made of it?
Yeah, we had the cameras with us. I won the Westmeath games. Now I think they were kind of putting cameras around a few, and they mightn't use all of it. We might appear in another one. I think they were getting more footage, kind of, if this was successful, to do another one. But I liked it. It highlighted the good and the not so good in Camogie, and I suppose I've done the PRO for Westmeath for a couple of years now, and you do see these things that maybe I mightn't have bothered taking too much. Honestly, I wouldn't have bothered taking too much of a look at in the last few years, where Camogie players complained about X, Y, and Z. It is 100% true. The stuff that they have to put up with compared to say the other codes as well. Now it is getting better, but in some parts it's not getting better. It's getting worse. You only have to look at the turning off the lights in the ladies football in Kildare, that kind of thing. That's shambolic. But as a documentary, yeah, I thought it was really, really good, and it gave a great insight into what the Camogie players, and look, the lads do the same as well. You're giving up endless hours of your life, and you're giving up your life essentially as a whole, nearly, to dedicate it to a sport. And I think it showed it pretty well. And yeah, it'd be nice to do a follow-up one. It'd also be nice to do a GAA one, a hurling one, a ladies football one. They're what we love watching. So yeah, throw up another one would be great.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I think more documentaries, like I remember I
Yeah.
was saying that to the lads during the week as well. Like I think having more content for fans to kind of get into and everything else. I think we remember the great GA documentaries and even
Yeah.
the ones of Westmeath, of course, as well. When they won that Leinster title. So like I think like the more content we can have, the better. And I think it's a great way to grow the game as well. Even for the kind of casual fans as well.
Yeah, I said it. I threatened to try and see if it was possible to revive it. I'd love to bring Celebrity Bonus Tour back in a more sort of same kind of way, but show more of the actual action on the pitch as well. Because that was the one thing I didn't like about it, was it just focused too much on the celebrities. And like my brother's team were on it 1 year. Brian Ormond was coaching them, and I was teaching Brian's daughter at the same time. And I remember saying to him, I was like, geez, it was all about you, wasn't it? And that's just the way it was. Unfortunately, they didn't focus on the lads too much. So I'd love to bring it back, but actually stick the celebrities in and make them actually suffer a little bit, and then put the matches on, as well, and let us see some of the games. But yeah, it would be nice to have more documentaries, and fly in the wall type stuff nearly as well would be great.
Absolutely. Well, look, listen, lads, I think that very much wraps it up. I suppose not a lot of talking points, not a lot of discussion points. So we've got everything kind of discussed in and under the hour. So look, cheers anyone who tuned in. Hit the like button and subscribe. Cheers very much for Jason for coming on the show. You're welcome on again anytime. And we'll be back on Thursday at 8 p.m. So do make sure to check that out if you could. And until the next one, we'll speak to you all soon.
Instinct, baby. Follow your instinct.